Welcome to Wisdom from the Aerial View, the podcast for those who wish to learn how to crush their anxiety and find meaning and purpose in their lives. So today, good morning, good afternoon, Dr. Klein. Mark, how are you today?
I'm great, Enid. How are you?
A little bit stressed. Oh, that's a good topic to discuss today because we're trying to relieve anxiety. So let's talk, if you will, today about stress. Now, so the World Health Organization defines stress this way. Stress is a natural human response to challenging or demanding situations that can cause mental tension and worry. It can be triggered by events or thoughts that make someone feel angry, nervous, or frustrated. In short bursts, stress can be beneficial, helping people to meet their deadlines and maybe avoid danger. However, when it disrupts daily life, stress can become unhealthy. Stress can manifest in physical, behavioral, and interpersonal ways. Yes, all true, isn't it? So let's talk about stress. What do we do to relieve it? I know that the aerial view can help. Let's talk that. Let's have a good discussion today about stress because you know what? I'm very stressed.
Well, I think if I called you any morning, I'd say, how are you? You might say, I'm stressed because you are, right?
Yeah. Me being me or just everybody?
Yeah, no, you being you.
Oh, yeah, well, that's true. Yeah.
And I get it. And you are certainly not alone. What struck me about your little introduction here was the World Health Organization. I'm thinking, what are they talking about? I mean, it's not like they have a vaccine for this, right?
Would that we do?
I have so many thoughts. We do. Okay, here's the good news. We have a vaccine for stress. I'm not kidding. It's called the Aerial View.
Okay,
and it really works. And there are really no side effects. And even RFK Jr. will allow us to use this. I know. I just tease you. I tease you because I love you.
That just stresses me out some more. Good. Yeah.
But I have so many things to say about this topic. First of all, stress is not only difficult, it's a killer. Yeah. Stress is a killer. I don't know if I ever told you this, but we all manifest our stress in different ways. So because I am a human being who suffers from the same ups and downs as most people, unlike my wife, who's clearly from another planet, who doesn't know what stress is, I get chest pain, but not like cardiac chest pain. And I've had this for years. And I realized, and here's when it manifests mostly. Let's say I get into a discussion or argument. Let's see, it's even better. Not a vicious argument, even just a disagreement or argument with somebody. It would happen often at my work, which is where it happens for many people, or certainly with their significant other or whatever. It doesn't even matter where. Mine would show up in my chest. I would feel this pain in my chest, not quite like cardiac chest pain, which I've had, not quite like reflux, gastroesophageal reflux, heartburn that I've had. This is different. It's kind of like this presence. And when the discussion stopped or the argument stopped or the stressful situation resolved, it didn't go away. It would last for hours. And I realized this cannot be good for me, right? And of course, it isn't good for you. It causes all kinds of hormones to start flying around, a lot of cortisol, which is an adrenal hormone that everybody knows about cortisone. You get an injection. Well, cortisol is an intrinsic hormone from the adrenal gland. And it is involved in your fight or flight responses. And it does a lot of things to your metabolism, to your glucose levels. It has a lot of effects, most of which are not particularly great. So when you're stressed and you're releasing that cortisol, it is not good for you in myriad ways. Yet we feel almost helpless. So many of us feel almost helpless to deal with this stress that comes from everything. And, you and I are at the point in our lives where when you think about it, we really shouldn't be very stressed at all because let's face it, we're probably in the fourth quarter. We're pretty close, right? Yeah. So, what are we worried about? But yet we're just like everybody else. We feel the stress. So it's manifested biochemically and physiologically. So it has a negative effect on you. I mean, yes, when in that World Health Organization description, sometimes stress is good. It makes you more alert. You pay attention. You understand what's happening in your surroundings. Perhaps you see danger either from another human being or an animal or a car or something. So yeah, it snaps you to attention. So that's a good thing for a short period of time. But after that, it's not so healthy. And yet it is ubiquitous. It is so difficult. So there's a little positive from stress, but a lot of negative. So what everybody wants to know is, how do I deal with it? And we're all confronted with challenging situations in our lives every day in one way or another, some worse than others. You spend a lot of time caring for people who are in need and require your assistance, and you feel responsible for them, and you take them to doctor's appointments, and you do things like that, and you look at your calendar, you go, oh my God, I have a meeting at work. I'm running this big organization. I got to help my friend. She has to go to the doctor. You watch all these things pile up on your plate, and the natural reaction is to be stressed. So how do you get around that? How do you deal with that? And I said, there's a vaccine, and I said, it's the aerial view. And we're going to talk about why. I am reading a book now. So I try to keep a book, try to have a book on my Kindle all the time. I read on a Kindle because I don't like carrying heavy books around. I like to take notes. It's real easy to do. A lot of people hate a Kindle. They want paper, and I get it. Totally respect that. But it's good for me to have it available and to be able to have lots of books around. Anyway, so I'm reading this book on physics. I know, roll your eyes. Go ahead. There they go. You can't see this, everybody, but there's a major Enid eye roll just happened.
Physics.
But it's a very interesting young woman who's the physicist. She's great. I don't know if she's French or Swiss. She's somewhere. She's European, or I'm not even sure where she's from. She's not from the United States, and she's very clever. She has podcasts. And she writes books, and she's very interesting, obviously very smart. And one of the things I just happened to come across in this book, which is called Existential Physics, is that we've talked about the jukebox of time and how all of time exists. And of course, as a physicist, she knows that's correct. And so she talks about it in the sense that we really don't have free will. This whole idea of free will, we've talked about free will on this podcast. And I say, we have a little free will, but not a lot. And she says, nah, you're overstating the case. We don't really have any. And one of the reasons is because everything has occurred, all of time has occurred, but she takes it to another level, which is, we're not going to get into, but it's basically because of the way physics works and the underlying system of particles and so on, the future is inevitable, has occurred, and we can't do anything about it. We really are powerless, even though it seems we are. So I think we should maybe start our discussion of stress before we get to the solution. Why don't we talk about the things that do cause stress, that the items in our daily life that bring us to stress? And I think that might help clarify the picture a bit.
Okay, well, tell me this, Mark. Tell me the difference, is there, between anxiety and stress? Is there a difference?
Well, if you ask a normal person, they'd say no.
All right, well, then
right?
I'll call you back. Okay, yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well said. Touché, as we say. Stress causes anxiety, right? I mean, there are other causes of anxiety. So anxiety is like the mommy, and the stress is the baby. But there are a lot of babies to the one mommy. So anxiety is the parent, but a lot of things feed into that. So a lot of things cause anxiety besides, quote, just stress. But I think for the purposes of this discussion, it doesn't. We can interchange them. I think it's fair enough. It's not scientifically accurate, but I don't think anybody's going to care.
Yeah, it's sort of interesting. Going down a rabbit hole, but people confuse anxiety. Well, not anxiety necessarily, but if we're stressed or we're anxious and eager, there's a total difference.
Oh, that's your favorite. You like that? And actually, I've cleaned up my act. Good. So I've stopped using anxious, and I've now used eager. Good. Because you've correctified me.
Yes, because there's a big difference in that. And so, yeah. So let's talk about then. We do get anxious about things.
Let me bring one up. How's that?
Yeah, please.
Unless you would like to start.
No, I don't, because I'm anxious enough. Just being on the call, I'm very anxious.
And you're eager to hear more.
I am eager to hear.
Yes.
And you're reading physics books, and I'm reading Harry Potter. Okay, next. Go.
I've read Harry Potter.
Actually, I didn't. I didn't like that stuff. Yeah.
I've read it twice. But anyway, I'll explain that another time. So one of the things that causes stress, I think, are choices. Oh, my God. What do I do now? Right? And I have watched people, as have you, and I'm sure our listeners have too, walk into a restaurant for lunch and just stress over what to order, right? I don't know. Should I have the soup? It's a little too hot for soup. A salad's good, but will salad fill me up? But if I eat a hamburger, that's kind of kind of gross and I'll feel lousy. And they just kind of, then they turn to the waiter, we've been through this, and say, what should I order? And the poor waiter or waitress is like, I don't know what you want to eat.
All right.
But so that's a little choice. And we've seen people stress over little choices, but there are a lot bigger choices, right? Everything from relationship choices, employment choices, career choices, housing choices, just so many choices. And they are super stressful for many people. So I think we can use choice, and we've talked about choice, but I think it's worth revisiting this because you won't believe this, Enid, but not every listener has listened to every episode. Can you believe that?
Well, all my friends have. Well, two of them.
Both of them? Yeah. Hey, ding. So choices are a big problem for lots of people, but it's a great jumping off point for understanding how we deal with stress, how the aerial view is the panacea for stress. So we've talked about this, but I think it's worth revisiting that most people think there's a best or right choice. Meaning the implication is when you're trying to decide whether to have a salad or a hamburger, that one of them is the right answer. But of course, in the more important choices like relationships or employment, careers, all these things we make choices about, we're really sure that there's a right answer. And one of them is right and the other ones are wrong. And how do I get the right one? And if I make the wrong choice, uh-oh. So it's worth going through this again because it's so valuable. There is no such thing as a best or right choice. And the reason that is because each choice or decision initiates a cascade of events that we can never predict the outcome of, mostly because they're going to intersect with the choices and decisions made by the billions of other people on the planet. So there's two really good reasons not to stress over choices. One, there's no such thing as a best or right choice. You don't know how anything is going to turn out. That's why when we talk about politics, I try to urge my friends on either side that they should kind of step off that high horse because they have no idea if they're right or wrong. They think they do. They think decision A by a politician is better than decision B by another politician, but they have no way of knowing that. They have no way of understanding what the outcome is going to be. It's not because we don't have enough information. It's because this is how our quantum world works. You cannot predict with certainty the outcome of any decision or choice. It's impossible. So the fact that you're making a choice, you're initiating a cascade of events that are going to intersect with the cascade of events that are created by every other choice. It is impossible to know the outcome. So reason number one to not stress over choices, you have no idea what the right decision is because there isn't one.
Yeah.
There is no such thing. Reason number two not to stress over a choice is the future's already occurred. It's already done. It's already written. You think your free will is at work, but it's not. So I put that second because it's hard to convince people of that.
Yeah, that one's a tough one. That one, I get the choice thing. I absolutely get that. And I really understand that now. The second, I don't get that the future.
You don't have to accept it. I get that. I mean, it's true. It's accurate. It's the way the world works. It's physics. It's Einstein. But it's okay. Because reason number one is good enough. You cannot know with certainty the outcome of any choice or decision because of the cascade of events that you initiated intersecting with the cascade of events that occur from everybody else's choices. It is impossible to know. Let it go.
Right.
So that is super powerful. Where does that come from? That comes directly from the aerial view. That's what we learn from the aerial view. When we see how the world works, we understand how all choices and all decisions are banging into each other 24/7, 365 days a year, and you cannot know with any certainty whatsoever. And we've talked about some of the stories about how I think if people go back and listen to, I don't know what episode it was, but how we talked about how a woman is trying to decide between job A and job B and how it all works out. And depending on where you stop the movie, it's a good result or a bad result or a good result or a bad result. That's how it works with every choice in our life. So when you make a choice, it is absolutely fine to weigh the relative probabilities, meaning I think this is the best choice. I think this job offers me the best upside. It's going to make me happy. The people there seem great. All those things make it sound like that's the right choice. So make that choice. Weigh the probabilities, weigh the information you have. But as soon as you make the choice, this is where the stress goes away. Let it go because you have no idea what's going to happen. Even though you used your great intellect, you weighed all the variables, you calculated probabilities, you did all the right things, great. You made what you thought was the best choice. Fantastic. Now let it go because you have no idea what the outcome is going to be. When you understand to let go of these choices, stress decreases immediately.
So you're saying that stress is all about choices? It's nothing else? It's just about choices?
No, I'm saying we're using choices as a jumping off point because it's a common cause of stress among everybody, except, of course, my wife.
Right? Except your wife, right.
Right.
So what are the other causes of stress besides choice? I think that it obviously is a larger issue than just choice. But and then how do I get there? How do I say to myself, okay, I am nervous, I'm stressful, I'm stressed, whatever, but it's a choice that I have to make that I shouldn't be stressed? I mean, is that another choice that one has to make?
No, it's not that it's a choice. It's an understanding. It's what the aerial view provides us. It's the perspective of the aerial view. Remember, the aerial view is a perspective.
Correct.
It's a perspective that understands the jukebox of time, how time works. It understands the finality or the limited number of days we have in this world. It explains how all moments of time exist contemporaneously. When we understand these things from the area view, then you look and you see, each choice initiates a cascade of events. So does everybody else's. They intersect. We have no idea what's going to happen. Here's another good source of stress. Health.
Right. I was going to get to that. Okay. Right.
Health. Big one. Not only your health, your loved one's health.
Sure.
Your significant other, your child, your parent, your friend, whatever, right? So, oh my God, somebody's sick. So let me give you the aerial view perspective that is so helpful. So I went to a funeral 2 days ago of the father of one of my colleagues, and he was still relatively young. I think he was within shouting distance of my age and your age, a physician, an oncologist who dealt with cancer. Okay, so of course, what did he die of?
Cancer, of course.
Of course, right? That's the way it works. It's God's sense of humor, right?
Right.
Doesn't seem funny, but God seems to think it is because it happens all the time, right? So, and I remember when he got diagnosed, he had a brain tumor. And of course, my younger colleague was clearly upset. And so that was day one. The day you get the diagnosis is day one. And the day that you pass away from your illness is day whatever. It's the last day. So we don't have to worry about the number of days. It's day one, first day, last day, right? Everybody knew that last day was going to come. Once that diagnosis was made, because it's not a curable disease, we knew that the last day was going to come. And when you see that from the aerial view, you understand that all those moments exist contemporaneously. So day one, the first day and the last day already exist. They're in that jukebox of time. We don't happen to know how far apart they are, but from that day of diagnosis to the day of the funeral, or the day the patient passes away, that is already happened. It's in the future. It seems to us the future is unknown, but we know from Einstein and from the jukebox of time that that's not true. All those moments exist contemporaneously. They're all there. So from the aerial view, you realize, okay, there's not that much difference between day one, the first day, and the last day. They're all those existing moments of time. We imbue them with a different significance, right? And so the day we find out the diagnosis, we all fret and we cry and the family hugs and we're all so upset. And that's totally appropriate. But 5 minutes after that, what everybody should realize is, okay, now we have to just live this time we have together, enjoy it, make the most out of it. Understanding that the last day has already been written, that story has already been written, it's already occurred, it's actually there. Let's understand what this is. But you can extrapolate that to all of life. The day we are born is really no different than the day we get that diagnosis, right? It's just a matter of number of records in the jukebox backwards. So all those moments exist. From the moment we're born, the moment we die, they all exist. That's our lifespan. It's all in the jukebox of time. When you have that perspective from the aerial view, you treat each moment with a certain level of respect. You give every moment its due. Every moment is just as important as the other moment, not just the good times, the bad times too, or what we call the bad times. You've heard me say, don't label them bad because you're going to be sad if you do that. Recognize them as equivalent moments in our life, pages in our story. Each page in the book is equivalent. There's no one page in a book that stands out or any other. So the reason I go through this again and again and again is because when we have this perspective from the aerial view, stress goes away. It was always going to be. That's not why I'm here. I need to focus on why I'm here. Make the most of each of those pages. Make the most of each of those records. Make the most of each of those moments in our life.
Okay, but he got the diagnosis. Between the diagnosis, that's the first, till the end, did he have stress, or did he? There's two kinds of stress. He's got his stress and then his children's stress.
Of course,
right.
And his wife,
and,
right? Of
and
course.
his wife. Okay. So how did they deal with it?
Here's the point. Here's the most critical point. And people who are listening to this, I just hope you just hear this, and even if you don't buy it, let it sink in. Because what I'm going to tell you is incredible, right? After that initial first moment, everybody should have very quickly realized there's nothing to stress about. This was always going to be. It has been written. This is the way the world works. We all are going to have an endpoint. Everybody has an endpoint. Everybody has a last record. Okay, once you accept that and understand that, then your light goes on in your head and you go, okay, it can't be about longevity. It's about something else. Why am I here? Oh, so now we have an opportunity. The family has an opportunity to refocus on the important things. Let's take care of each other. Let's love each other. Let's spend time with each other. And when we're not with each other, let's do the same thing with other people, which is what you do every day, Enid. So this is where the stress goes away. You understand we live our life as if there's no final record. We live our life as if we make every correct choice and every correct decision and every correct move, we're going to find a way out of the maze of life. No. There's no finding your way out of the maze of life. That last record is going to hit every one of us. We don't know when it is. We don't know the circumstances. Hopefully it's peaceful and joyous. For some people, it's obviously violent and terrible. But that record is going to hit there, right? So what are we stressing about? We already know how the book ends. We already know the last page. And we already know that there's no such thing as a best choice or correct choice or best decision. Once you accept these things and you inculcate them into your being, and it takes practice.
Yeah.
You need to think about the aerial view every day. That's how the stress goes away. That's the vaccine. Look, I still suffer from this, and then I catch myself. I go, oh, no. What are you doing? What are you doing? What are you getting upset about? No, I need to focus on what I can do to help, what I can do to make it better for my family, for my friends, for strangers, certainly, right? Then when you focus on, that's why focusing on other people, that's why evolving from selfish to selfless is such a miracle, because that also removes the stress, because that reminds you why you're here. It reminds you what your mission is. It reminds you what you need to focus on, not how long you live. You're going to die, right? Not if you're going to get sick. You're going to get sick. Not if I make the right decision or wrong decision. There's no such thing as a right or wrong decision. Once you understand these things, where's the stress coming from?
So then what do you
Right?
do? Do you quit the job and go travel to Europe and do all the things you always wanted to do? Do you keep on going, does he go back to being an oncologist? What do you do?
Well, he had already retired from his practice,
Okay.
but I would say you do what makes you fulfilled. You do what gives you joy and pleasure, and you continue to focus on
Your purpose?
not myself, other people, right? So I was watching something on TV today, and somebody was talking about, young kids and selfies. And it's not just young kids that take selfies, obviously. But every time I see the selfie discussion, I go, oh God.
Yeah.
If you want to make these kids happy, teach them how to turn the camera around, right? Don't take a picture of themselves. Focus on other people. So what we're getting at is the aerial view. What the aerial view does is it grants you a perspective that's accurate, that is correct, that is in keeping with the way the world works, with the science and the physics that you hate, and also the intangibles that we know about. And it tells you how to live your life. It tells you don't have to have stress. You're worried about getting sick? You will. You're worrying about dying? You will.
Yeah.
You worry about things that are unpleasant happening to you or your family? They will. You're worried about having a limited lifespan? You will, right? Okay, forget it. Number 2 is don't focus on choices. Make your best choice. Wait. And I'm always telling people, make the best choice you can. I'm not against making good choices. I taught my kids forever how to make good choices, right? And I was thinking this morning about some of the stupid things I've done. Really, I think were dumb choices. But that's okay, right?
But it's not a good choice. It's just a choice, right?
It's just a choice. Once
Right.
you make a choice,
Okay.
you got to let it go. It's out of your
Right.
hands. So try to make, quote, good choices,
Okay.
right? Try and do good things, especially choices that affect other people.
Right.
Always try and do the right thing. Always try and make the best choice. Weigh the probabilities, which is what we're doing. What's going to happen if I do this? I call this scenario playing. If I do this, If I say this to my
If this, then, yes.
wife,
Yeah.
what's going to happen? Oops, don't do that. That's not going to work out well. So we're always weighing probabilities and working through scenarios in our head.
Right.
The point is, keep doing that. Make good decisions. But once you make them, don't worry about them. Let them go. This is the genius of my wife, right? Once you make them, let them go. And she's 100% right. So she came at it from a different perspective, but the point is the same. You cannot control the outcome. You have no idea what the outcome of any choice or decision is.
It's interesting to me how, first of all, I want to correct the record. I like science. I'm a believer in science. I just don't happen to read books on physics. Although I've taken some physics in my time. But I think you're right. I think stress does kill. There's no question about that. Let me ask you a question. Do you sleep well at night?
Generally, yes, unless I have a nightmare.
Stress, huh?
Well, that's out of my control. What am I going to do, right?
Just saying,
right?
Just saying. No,
I don't have that many, but they are kind of funny because my wife will wake me up and she looks at me like this pathetic, like wimpy. She says, "Stop! You're whimpering, dear." Right? Okay. Well, some bad guy's chasing me, right? But no, generally I do sleep pretty well.
Okay.
But here's the thing. And I know we don't have a lot of time left because this episode seemed to have flown, but the point is, stress is bad and there is a solution. It is not like, throw your hands up and I have to go see a therapist or I have to go, no, you don't. You have to understand the aerial view and it's easily obtainable. It's what we've been talking about. Once you understand the things we've talked about in the past about the aerial view,
yeah,
especially about choices, no such thing as the right choice. And especially that our time in life is finite. All these things we talked about, you realize there's no reason to have stress. It's a foolish thing. We don't need it, except the short-term stress that we might get from, paying attention to our environment. Yeah. Otherwise, it's not important.
I think this is important. I think it was an important conversation to have, and I think it's an important subject to think about. And that's why I really wanted to do this. I want to end this because we are closing out of time, but I want to end this with a story that I read that I think is fascinating and apropos of this. It's called The Monk and the Tourist. Jane was in her mid-30s, and she ran her own marketing consultancy business, and she was a wife and a mother. Bob, meanwhile, was in his mid-50s, and he was working as a manager in the retail sector, not leaving much time for his family, his wife, or his friends, or even himself. These individuals did not know each other. Yet their paths were soon to cross. They were both suffering from stress due to their respective work and home lives. They both sought a solution and felt that they had to travel in order to do so. They found themselves searching the internet, each identifying that Tibet may have the answers for them. So they both booked their flights. Jane and Bob landed in Kathmandu and then took a connecting flight to the international airport in Tibet. Jane and Bob later bumped into each other on a train as they were in the same carriage. They struck up a conversation. They talked for hours about how they had both lived so stressfully and that they were hoping that Tibet would provide the answers and find some peace for them there. They realized that they were both staying at the same hotel, but on different floors. Jane and Bob met early for breakfast the next day and realized that they had the same habit of leaving their mobile phone on the table just in case an important phone call came, a text came, or an email came in. They began to realize that they were really quite similar. They decided to explore the sites, and along the way, they came across an elderly woman at the local bazaar who held a handwritten sign that read, "The answer you seek is closer than you think. He is waiting for you." An arrow was pointing them in the woman's sign in the direction of a mountain some miles away. "Who is waiting for us?" Jane and Bob both asked. "The monk that you seek is waiting for you," the woman replied, beckoning them to climb the mountain with her, and she smiled broadly. Well, Jane and Bob looked at each other, surprise and excitement, and realized that the reason they had come all this way was to see this man, to see the monk who had helped them relieve their stress. So they climbed 3,000 steps to the temple with anticipation, not knowing exactly what to expect. They soon found the monk, sitting silently with his prayer beads in his hand and meditating under a tree. Jane and Bob slowly approached the tree, trying not to disturb the monk. The monk noticed their presence and asked them to join him for tea. "We have traveled so far and abandoned your families, haven't you?" said the monk. Well, Jane and Bob paused for a second, and they looked at the monk and said, "Well, yeah, they did." They said, "But we came here to seek peace, so that we would understand and reduce the stress in our lives. And the monk then started to pour the tea, the top of the cups, asking them, is this enough? And they both replied, yes. But the monk kept pouring the tea till it was overflowing. Stop, stop, stop. It's overflowing. It's too much, Jane and Bob exclaimed. Yes, the monk replied. They're overflowing, just like your lives, full of stress. Empty the cup. Allow the knowledge and peace to enter your heart and mind. That's the right choice to make. The choice is yours. Relieve your stress. Kind of interesting.
Yes, they could have saved a lot of money if they just
all they
listened
needed
to our
to do was come to
podcast.
you, right? But I'm glad
Not
they
come
were
to me.
drinking tea.
Listen. Yeah, tea's good. Look, I think we've talked about this before. Life is not that complicated. It just seems incredibly complicated to everybody. But when you peel away the different layers, it's not. You do the best you can. You help as many people as you can. You understand there's no such thing as a right or a best choice. You understand that you're here for a reason. The rest of it is noise.
But I also think that the moral of that story and the moral of what you're telling us is just stop being so inwardly focused and start looking out and start looking out for others. I mean, I think that story to me resonated because it's exactly what you've been saying, except that I read it because I thought maybe Jane and Bob would get together and they'd have a little affair, have a little nice time. But anyway, I see we're out of time. So let me leave you with the last word about stress, Doc. And as we go, it's morning here in America, and we have the rest of our day here. And you're about to get on an airplane and travel somewhere else, which to me would be stressful anyway. Does that not stress you out?
Oh, yeah. Well, until I stop myself. Yes. I mean, this is what happens. Yes, absolutely. All these things. My initial reaction is just like everybody else's. Oh, God, the airport.
Yeah.
The whole flight delays. But until I stop and realize these are just pages of my story. It was always going to be. Embrace it. There's a word in Italian, because I study Italian, you know this, called abbracciare, which means to embrace, right? If you give somebody a hug, it's an abbraccio. It's ti imbraccio, I embrace you. So I love that word now because it's like I'm trying to learn to embrace every moment. And it's not because it's some Zen thing and from a Tibetan monk. It's because that's what the aerial view shows us. All moments are equivalent. All moments are of equal value. All moments contribute to our story. Instead of fretting over them, embrace them. I know I talk about my wife all the time, but I watch her in action. This is really what she does. And it is just a wonderful way to live. And the aerial view explains why it's absolutely the correct way to do it. It's the correct perspective, right? Every moment is equivalent. Embrace even the ones that maybe aren't so pleasant. So you're in an airport and you don't like it, but it's just part of your story. Just embrace that moment as best you can. And focus on other people. Take the focus off yourself. That'll knock 20% of your stress in 5 minutes.
Right.
So anyway, I hope this has been helpful to people. I'm sure we'll revisit it again and again.
Thank you.
I thank you, and I hope you have a stress-free day and a joyous day.
You do the same. Have a good one.
All right. Love
Peace.
you. Bye.
I love you too. I embrace you.
Bye. Bye-bye.